Okay, here we are. I've gone ahead and started right here at the dispatch screen. I'm going to be talking you through the features and functions of the Edge training tool. And one of the biggest parts of that is the roles that people can play. It's a role-playing game in a sense where it's a virtual representation of a live training event. So here I'm sitting at the dispatcher screen, who is in the game environment but not seeing the game environment as they'd be in an office in front of a computer. This is where everything's going to get kicked off. I've got some instant messages coming into me saying there's a person in the hotel with a weapon. And we've created this dispatch screen to have the ability to change channels over here on the left. We can even link channels together if we want fire and police to be able to talk to each other. They have the ability to dispatch people onto the scene or even take notes. Things like that. And this is such a key role in these scenarios. I've played it myself in a training exercise, and it's kind of a nightmare. I mean, truly an appreciation for the job that these people do. Managing the calls, keeping the channels separated, making sure the right information gets disseminated. Okay, I am going to move out of here and get back to the main menu. Jenny asked who provides the text messages and chat, and honestly, that can be a civilian in the hotel. It can be an exercise controller, somebody standing in the room with them that just taps them on the shoulder. There are many ways to kick off the training event. Okay, yeah, it could be a first responder that happened to be walking by the hotel and then radios it in. Okay, so I'm going to go join session, and I'm going to modify my character here. So we just went through the main menu. This is the character creation. And I'm going to change my role. You'll see the roles here. We've got civilian, who is actually key in doing things like engaging the first responders in a conversation. They can be a part of the training team and give them misleading information or give them helpful information. Okay, dispatcher, I was just there. EMS, emergency medical, the firefighters. We even have military roles if there was a National Guard incident. Law enforcement, suspect, and unified command, which is the role that I'm going to select right now. I'll leave my appearance as it is, and let's head in. Okay. So these roles are all played by live players. This is up to and possibly more than a 40-player multiplayer training game, simultaneously distributed or local. And here I am in the lobby. I'm going to skip over this real quick and go ahead and get in the game. I'll talk about that in a second. So this is another one of the special roles that's not necessarily at the scene of the incident. This is where Unified Command is going to be issuing orders, taking in information, really just managing the radios and trying to get a grasp on what the situation is and what the protocol should be for the first responders that are arriving. So in order to do that, we gave them a couple of tools. Of course, everybody can talk on the radio. You can switch between radio channels and and of course there's area chat. We call it area chat. Anytime you talk out loud over your microphone, anybody in the proximity can hear you. So in the back of this SUV, there's a whiteboard. We put this here so that people can, I don't know, draw some images about how they're going to attack the situation. The cool thing about this is it's also distributed. So anybody that's standing next to that whiteboard and pulls it up can see what I've drawn, and then they can draw on top of my drawing. So even if somebody's in Washington and I'm in Florida, we can have a conversation about what we're going to do in this situation on a shared piece of paper. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that. And I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this role. And then I'm going to come back in as emergency medical, which is going to be my role, which I'll play towards the end of the training exercise. Keep the same appearance and go EMS. And that looks good. I'll just go Tabitha again. Okay, My role in this is actually unique. I've been marked as an instructor or an administrator, and I have special privileges. I can revive people if they were mistakenly killed. I can boot people from an exercise. And most importantly, I can observe. And that's what I'm going to do right now, is I'm going to go ahead and do a quick mic check with my guys here. Hey everyone, mic check. How we looking?
I got you.
Okay, so this is the lobby. The lobby is the one place, especially if you're doing a distributed exercise. This is your place to talk about and plan the scenario and exercise that you're going to run. As you can see, all of our roles are in here together. By pressing the space bar and talking over the microphone, we can have a conversation, work out the details. And as an instructor, I have these extra actions here on the right side of the screen where I can deploy specific roles. So one of the things we'll commonly do at the start of an exercise is deploy the suspects, because the suspects are going to kind of set the scene for what's going to happen in the scenario. They might kill some people on the 3rd floor and then set a fire in the lobby. So we need them to go set the stage, perhaps civilians too, and then we'll dispatch the first responders and let them respond to the dispatcher themselves. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and deploy myself. And I'm going to pick, this is, the spawn point selection is where you're, basically where you're driving your vehicle into the scene. So, you know, if there's gunfire on the main street here, we might want to pull up on the back side. I'm going to go onto the main corner here real quick. And I'm walking around. I've got a view of the Grand Hotel in downtown Sacramento. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave my body with a press of the V key. And then I'm up and I can look around. Okay, so this is where I'm going to monitor the situation from. Let's go ahead and fly into the hotel. It is painstakingly recreated in detail. As you can see, there's some civilians standing about, people at the front desk. There's a dining hall and a kitchen up here. It's incredible the amount of space and detail that's in a hotel of this size that we didn't realize until we walked it ourselves. And while this is a hotel scenario, it's so large and there's so many rooms that it can be treated in a lot of different ways. I mean, you could just run an exercise in the lobbies and the ballrooms. You can treat these meeting rooms upstairs as, you know, any office building. And then, of course, once you get down here into the elevators, you can take the elevator up to one of 26 floors that are all recreated with the rooms intact. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and have my guys start the scenario. Okay. So this scenario that we've created is very simple. It's just really exercising the functions of the world. Real quick, I did want to talk about the sandbox nature of this. We call this the first responder sandbox. So when we went and gathered requirements on how to build this thing, we were trying to see how much artificial intelligence would play a role in it. And honestly,
2 minutes out.
Okay, here we go. Thank you, Daniel. Daniel asked if this was made in Maya. Yes, our artist worked in Maya. So the sandbox environment, we decided to create a world that gives you all of the physics and locations of a real environment, but the role players are the things that influence and drive the scenario. It's not a single player, computer-based training environment. It really is a collaborative effort of the participants in the game. And it's not really a trainer for the person that's holding the weapon. We're not trying to train people on how to shoot a gun. There's gun ranges for that. What we're really trying to train is communication, specifically in a scenario this large, cross-discipline communication. Okay, so we've got a suspect that came in. He's armed, and the civilians are beginning to react. We're going to follow his movements for a moment. As we set the stage here. I want to just mention as well while we're sitting here, notice in the upper left-hand corner of the screen it says recording. We're recording this entire event, including all the video and actions that take place during it, and the audio. So all the voice chat will be recorded as well. And we're going to watch that briefly in an after-action review. Okay, the shooting started. We've got an active shooter in the hotel. Okay, we also pre-staged this scenario to have a hostage situation. And so we pre-set up a hostage in this room. It's something that the trainees don't ever see, but that's something we do on the training side to create an exercise. And he's coming to take the hostage. Okay, so he's going to have a gun pointed at his head. And at this point, we're getting a call to dispatch to say, there's an active shooter in the hotel. We last saw him going into the ballroom on the bottom floor.
22 on scene.
And he has taken a hostage. So police will be arriving on scene any second now. Okay, one of the other things I can do as an instructor, I'm flying around with a camera, but I can also hit a button and I can jump between everybody that's in the scenario and watch what they're doing from their perspective. So I'm going to follow these. I'm just going to tether. I'm hands off. I'm just going to watch this unfold from behind these first responders. Let's see this engagement take place. Follow these. I'm just going to tether. I'm hands off. I'm just going to watch this.
Back up. Drop your weapon. I got him hostage. Don't do it.
Okay, so there was a brief exchange between the law enforcement officer and the gunman. Unfortunately, he told him to drop the weapon. He shot the hostage, but then the first responder immediately took down the active shooter.
Alright, follow me.
Okay, seems like they're communicating with each other again.
Upstairs.
There was a second shooter. They spotted him upstairs, and the second shooter appears to be down. Okay. And a fire started. So that second shooter that was a part of this scenario while the hostage situation was taking place started a fire in the dining area here. So this was an interesting conundrum when we first met with the first responders and said, you know, what do you do if there's somebody shooting inside and there's a fire? And the law enforcement say, you know, I don't want to go in. There's fire, and the firefighters are like, but there's bullets flying around. So what's the protocol for that? And to answer that question, we built a sandbox training environment so we can run these scenarios in a multitude of different ways and figure it out. What is the right answer?
Going in southeast.
So what these guys are going to do in this particular scenario, they've decided to call on the fire department. They're going to come over and provide security. So they think they have the two active shooters down. They've double-checked the lobby. And now they've come to pick up the firefighter and escort him in. And of course, by this point in time, hopefully we'd have, you know, the chain of command as the people arrive would be raising higher and higher as we get to a unified command position. And the unified command would have certainly a huge role to play in deciding what's happening with the first responders, and obviously going through dispatch. Again, like we said, we aren't training the individual on how to do their individual task trainer type job. So we're not teaching the firefighter how to put out the fire. We're teaching the decision making that goes into providing security and bringing the firefighter in. Hence the Bluetooth hose. It's wireless because we aren't training how to manage swinging the hose around corners and managing tripping. Although that's something, you know, a simulation like this could do, it's not the focus of this training environment. Okay, so it looks like we've got the fire put out. The 2 active shooters are down. And I'm going to come back in as my role. So I'm going to hit the backspace key. I'm back as EMS. And I'm going to get a call to come in. And let's start looking at the wounded. So here's somebody right in the lobby. I have a couple options here. I'm going to examine. And as a medical professional, I do have the ability to see their RPM, respiration, perfusion, and their mental state. So I've got a gunshot bleeding victim here who is alert, and we're going to use that information to triage the patient. So I'm going to pick that person up and start moving them outside. These tarps over here is where the triage will happen. So based on their injury status, we'll be placing them on these immediate attention needed, suspended, injured but can wait. And there's a whole game within itself that the EMS plays as far as there's so much to do after this with managing hospital beds and are there enough trucks available. But this is a gunshot bleeding victim. I am going to put them into the immediate pile and move on to the next. So, and then we see firefighters are starting to evacuate people as well. Too many people on the street. I'm going to tell them to get out of the way. Manage this crowd. These vehicles are also drivable. And let's take one more quick fly through. Again, that is the hotel there, 26 floors, all fully available. First responders are still providing security. The fire is out. The surfaces are charred. So this fire is interesting. There's not a lot of fire being done in video games. This whole entire hotel can engulf in flames. It will spread. It pays attention to the material surfaces, so it'll spread faster over wood than tile. The iron girders here will not burn. And once a surface is burned, charred, and dampened with water, it won't reignite. So there we are with that. I don't see any other questions in chat. So let's move on to the after action review. This little scenario is complete. So I'm going to exit out of here to Windows. And just give me a moment while I come back in with the after action review tool open. So after action review is a place where we can gather the participants together, go over the video and the audio of the exercise, have them ask questions, be able to show them specific incidences within that training scenario. It's certainly a place, everything's captured on video, so it's certainly a place where you can say you did one thing, but we can go back and watch and see that there was another. Okay, thank you, John. Reminding everybody that we're YouTube only right now. Chat is the only way to talk. And then we'll do a Q&A at the end. Okay. I'm picking the recording that we just made. And it's coming up now. So the neat thing about this is we're using the power of the Unreal Engine to do the after action review. So we're recording the events that take place and not actual video. So this is being re-rendered in time with the actual event. And with that, I'm able to scrub through particular points in the timeline. I'm able to pause the game, look at it from multiple different angles. I'm not limited by a video recording. Okay, you can hear the sound. I'm just changing my resolution real quick. And we're back in. Okay. And I'm going to hit start playback. All right. I started in the fire control room. So I'm going to switch from fly to follow. And I'm going to go ahead and flip through. Okay, here was our second shooter. We can see that he was walking around unarmed Question if we could do crowd interrogation on situations. Yes, so that's why we were provided the civilian role. So any live player can jump into the civilian role, and you could have a Q&A with them. You could pull somebody, now it's specific, so you can't talk to the AI that's running out of the building, but one of those mixed in with them might be a live player, where you could have a conversation. And again, they can be a part of the training team, so you can pre-feed them with instructions to either provide misleading information or provide good information. So I'm gonna jump out of follow into fly and see. Okay, so I've got the game paused, and we see that our first shooter already began doing. Already started doing the shooting. Okay, let's play this again. I'm watching it from this angle. So I'm gonna take this bar right here. I'm gonna drag it forward a little bit and see if we can't get to the point where our law enforcement officers come in. Okay, here they come. This is the part I really wanted to see. Okay, so I'm going to pause again right here and select all the audio. So I want to make sure that I can hear the area chat as this happens. I want to hear it from the first responder's perspective. So let's play that.
Drop your weapon! Drop your weapon! Now! Drop it!
Okay, see that? So I heard him come in. Drop your weapon, and within an instant, he had already killed the hostage, and his first response was to take out the gunman. So, you know, we could play that and rewatch that from multiple angles and from different perspectives. But that's the power of the AAR after action review. Okay. And with that, I think we have everything covered for the live portion of the demo and the stream. I'm going to turn it back over to the phone call, and we can have a Q&A session. Thanks, everybody.